Hi everyone. We appreciate you joining us today and welcome to the Sage Intacct 2026 Release 1 webinar presented by Cross Country Consulting. My name is Becca Rust and I will be your moderator for today's session where we're excited to share the latest Sage Intacct release updates, which came out this past Friday, February the 13th. So before we dive into the actual session, just a few notes. All attendees will be muted throughout the presentation. There is an opportunity to earn CPE credit for today's session. In order to do so, you must attend for at least 50 minutes and respond to at least three of the four polling questions, which will appear on the screen at various points during the session. And if you have any questions throughout the course of today's webinar, please use the Q&A feature in the Zoom to submit them, and our post-production support team will do our best through here to respond to your questions. If you stay with us until the end, we will also have a dedicated time for additional live Q&A. So here's a quick agenda of what we'll go over today. First, we'll do an introduction of each of our facilitators, your cross-country Sage Intacct PPS team, and share a brief overview of our PPS offerings. After that, we'll jump into the highlights and go over some of the new features from Release 1. And finally, we'll perform a quick wrap-up along with answering any of the questions that have come in during the session. Again, my name is Becca Rust, and I'm an experienced managing manager at Cross Country with over 12 years of experience supporting cloud ERP solutions and over 7 years of hands-on Sage Intacct experience. Joining me today are three of my colleagues within our Sage Intacct service line. Ginger Steele, an experienced manager with over 18 years in accounting and over a decade working with Sage Intacct, ERP implementations, and project management. We also have Ashley, an experienced manager with over 12 years of experience supporting SaaS financial systems and over 8 years of hands-on experience with Sage Intacct. And finally, James, a senior consultant on our PPS team with over 6 years supporting Sage Intacct. He also has a background in accounting, audit, and has a strong focus on developing customized client solutions. Together, we bring decades of combined experience in Sage Intacct implementations, post-production support, and client success, and are excited today to walk you through the Release 1 enhancements and how they can benefit your organization. So our objectives for this webinar are to familiarize you with the key features introduced in the R1 release, show you how these updates can bring value to your organization, help you prepare your system and teams to take advantage of these new features and the impacts that may be associated with them. And lastly, we'll also go over our 5 cross-country post-production support offerings. So with that, we'll go ahead and kick off our first polling question here. How prepared is your team for the R1 release? We'll give everyone about 30 to 45 seconds for replies. All right, I'll give about 10 more seconds for those who haven't replied yet. I think we can go ahead and wrap up the poll now. Let's take a look at the results. Great. All right, perfect. So looks like a few people here have already reviewed the release notes, so that's great. Some have started reviewing, but a majority of people, at least you're aware there was a release, but maybe haven't started reviewing the release notes yet. So that's all good. We'll go over most of the highlights today. And as always, the full details are available on Sage Intacct's website if you want to really go through everything in detail because there is a lot going on with this release this quarter. All right. So this next slide highlights our 5 key PPS offerings, which cover everything from day-to-day operational assistance to enhancement support and more. At Cross Country, our post-production support services are designed to help you maximize the value of your Sage Intacct investment. With that, we offer operational support or really help with day-to-day operations. So this is for things like error troubleshooting or just general questions about product functionality, optimization and enhancements, where we can help you optimize processes or implement new modules, release management, such as this release webinar, but also if you would like, we can always provide a more tailored approach with personalized insight on how any of the new features can benefit your specific organization. Security and user management. So this is where we can act as your system administrator and help manage user access, permissions, and even assist with audit requests as needed. Reporting and integrations, where we can help build out custom reports or assist in monitoring, troubleshooting, and implementing new integrations. Health checks, where we can perform system diagnostics and provide recommendations on ways you can better leverage Sage Intacct to meet your organizational goals. Overall, within our PPS practice, we support over 100 clients through our efforts and are proud to be a certified trusted partner for over a decade. So just to summarize, here are the 5 key PPS offerings, which I'm sure most of you are already aware of: operational support, enhancement projects, system health checks, integrations, and release management. So before jumping into the release notes, we have our second polling question, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the highlights here. The question is, are you interested in identifying additional ways to get more from Sage Intacct? And again, we'll give about 30 to 45 seconds for people to answer this one. All right. 10-second warning for anyone who still hasn't answered. All right. Here we go. We got the results. So looks like a majority or the number one choice is yes, would love to explore optimization opportunities. And then a lot of other people as well are open to improvement. So that's great. All right. So that is the second poll question. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the release updates demo. And I will pass it along to Ashley to begin our review of release 1.
Thanks, Becca. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Ashley, and I'll be walking you through some of the key updates across cash management, general ledger, and accounts receivable. So first up in cash management, we have enhancements to the check printing setup, specifically around managing your company address and logo. And this update provides a much simpler and more intuitive experience when configuring check layouts. Previously, users would see a number of address and logo fields all at once, even when they weren't needed. And so now Sage Intacct has made this cleaner by only displaying the relevant fields based on the options that you select. So if we go ahead and go to cash management and go to our checking accounts, I'm going to go ahead and select one of my checking accounts that I've already set up for check printing. So I'll go ahead and click Edit. And if I navigate to the check printing tab, sorry, to print a company address, I'll select print company address. And once I select that, the company address section appears. Next, if I use a different address, the address entry fields now expand only when needed. This makes it much easier to enter in an alternate address without confusion. And right alongside that, we also have our logo controls. So if I went to select print logo, then I can choose to upload my logo if one hasn't already been added. And so overall, this update just makes formatting checks faster, cleaner, and much more user-friendly. The next enhancement in cash management helps improve reconciliation accuracy by introducing a new document number field on the bank interest and charges page. And so since I'm working in a multi-base currency, multi-entity environment, the first thing I'm going to do is select the appropriate entity. Once I'm in my entity, I'll navigate to cash management and I'll go down into the transactions and my interest and charges. I went ahead and created a couple of entries here. So if I go ahead and drill into one of those, you'll notice right away that there's a new field available called document number here. This field allows you to enter a shared identifier. For example, maybe you have a transaction number from your bank statement. So if I'm recording a processing fee or a bank charge, I can now assign that same document number that appears on my related payment or deposit activity. And this becomes really helpful during bank reconciliation because now both the payment and that associated fee can be tied together using this common identifier, which you can include when you're building out any of your bank reconciliation matching rules. The next update in cash management improves consistency when working with imported bank transactions. So previously, transactions imported through the Bank Transaction Assistant were managed separately from bank feed activity. So now Sage Intacct has enhanced this process so that when you import transactions, they're going to appear directly on the Banking Cloud tab. So that's the same place where your bank feed transactions live. So now that I've navigated to my bank transaction import files, this is where you can import bank activity if you're not using a live bank feed or if you need to bring in transactions manually. And so from here, I went ahead and uploaded a few transaction files that were CSV exports from my bank. And once that import is complete, the key change is what happens next. So instead of these transactions just being stored only in a separate import area only, they now automatically will flow into the same experience as your bank fee transactions. So now if I go back to cash management and go to checking, I'll go ahead and go back into my bank account too and go to the Banking Cloud tab. Now I can see up top here, these are all my imported transactions that I imported through the bank transaction import file. And it also lives in the same exact spot where all my bank fee transactions are. So this just means that now I can review everything consistently, everything's categorized and matched in the same way. It's all included in the same reconciliation workflow and managed all in one central place. Lastly, in cash management, the bank register report has been enhanced for multi-entity environments. So when running the report from within an entity, Sage Intacct will now automatically populate the entity's location, preventing errors caused by missing location filters. So if I go back to my entity level and go to cash management and go under reports, registers, and bank, what you'll notice is that because I'm at my entity level, you'll notice that this location filter is already auto-populated with that same entity that I'm currently in. And so even though, and if I go ahead and select a different bank account, it doesn't matter, the location will still stay the same. And so even though this is a small change, it does help reduce reporting mistakes and it also saves you time. Now moving into General Ledger, I have an exciting new functionality, which is GL count reconciliations. So if you're already utilizing vendor or customer reconciliations, you can now extend that same reconciliation approach to other balance sheet accounts, which makes it easier to match offsetting debit and credit activity beyond just AP and AR. And so let me go ahead and walk you through what that would look like in Sage Intacct. So before enabling GL account reconciliations, the first setup requirement is creating a document sequence. So if I go ahead and go to Company, the Setup tab, and Document Sequences, you're going to set up a document sequence because this is what Sage Intacct is going to use for lettering or matching codes assigned during that reconciliation process. So to begin, I already went ahead and created a document sequence called GL account reconciliations, but you can go ahead and create one that makes sense to your organization. All that you have to do for this document sequence is just to make sure that your sequence type is set to alpha. And then you can go ahead and set a primary sequence of 3 letters and a primary sequence maximum. And this is going to be used when you're doing your matching for the GL account reconciliation. Once that document sequence is in place, then you're ready to enable the feature at the general ledger. So if we go ahead and navigate to general ledger and go to setup, configuration, if we go ahead and scroll down a little bit to the transaction section, you'll now see enable GL account reconciliations. So you'll go ahead and enable this. Once that's enabled, you'll go ahead and set up that GL account reconciliations document sequence that you created and set that here and hit save. Once that's been enabled, then you can turn it on for specific GL accounts. And now, before I enable this on an account, one important thing to note is that GL account reconciliations can only be enabled for accounts that meet certain conditions. So this feature is designed specifically for eligible balance sheet accounts, and it cannot be turned on for accounts that are already tied to your subledger or cash management workflows. So the account requirements are that, one, it must be a balance sheet account. It can't be mapped to any checking, savings, or credit card accounts in cash management. It also cannot be used as an offset account or configuration account under your configure AP or configure AR pages. And it also cannot be designated as a GL alternative account for AP or AR. So if you run into any errors when you are setting this up on a balance sheet account, just remember that these are some of the restrictions and that'll be the reason why you receive any errors. So now if I go into my chart of accounts by going to General Ledger, all General Ledger accounts, and I'm going to open a specific GL account that I want to set up for GL reconciliations. And for today's demo, I'm going to go ahead and select my prepaid expense account. And the reason why prepaid expenses is a great use case is because oftentimes you have activity where maybe an expense is recorded up front and then you have portions that are relieved over time through monthly amortization entries. And so being able to match these offsetting debit and credit lines provides a much cleaner way to track what's been cleared and what's remaining as outstanding. So if I go ahead and edit my prepaid expense account, you'll notice at the bottom here that I can enable it for GL account reconciliations. And then you'll also notice another field for GL account reconciliation sequence. Now, even though we set that up already in the GL config, that will be used as a default, but you also have the ability to set up custom or GL account document sequences per GL account if you'd like. So I'm going to go ahead and just use my default one here and hit save. Once enabled, Sage Intacct will begin tracking transaction activity for matching. Now, this isn't retroactive, so the moment that you enable this, it will only be for transactions going forward. Now that that's been enabled on one of my GL accounts, I can begin reconciling transactions. So I'll go ahead and go to General Ledger, GL Account Reconciliations. And this is going to be my central workspace where all the matching is going to be taking place. And so at the top of the page here, you can apply filters to narrow down the transactions that you want to review. And so I'm going to go ahead and select my entity, my prepaid expense account. I'm also going to select my reporting period, and I just want to see what's happening for this current month. I also have the ability to do matching status. So if I wanted to show not matched, or if I want to include matched transactions, I can go ahead and set that there. And if I go ahead and view results, these are all my transactions that I've entered after enabling the feature that I can go ahead and start matching. And so from here, I can select transactions that offset each other. So I'm going to go ahead and select these bottom two here since they do offset against each other for the same amount. And I'm going to go ahead and click Match Transactions. And now you'll notice that because I matched these two transactions together, a matching letter was assigned to both of these. And so that's going to create a documented link between those entries. And while I'm using prepaid expenses here, there are definitely other scenarios where clients can benefit from this right away. For example, you can use this for payroll clearing accounts where maybe your payroll postings are matched against your cash disbursements. You can also use this for any other accrued expenses or even fixed assets. So in all of these cases, GL account reconciliations will help your teams focus on exceptions and also maintain a strong audit trail. And then the last component to GL account reconciliations is a new report. So if we go ahead and go to General Ledger and go to GL account reconciliations activity, this report is going to show me my matched transactions, unmatched transactions, or I can even run it to show both together. So I'm going to go ahead and filter this by my location since that's required here, and go ahead and click on View. So this gives me a whole holistic view of all of my transactions that have already been matched, as you can see from these matching letters that have been assigned. And then I also have two outstanding that haven't been matched yet. So this shows me anything that's been unmatched. I also have an example here where I also enabled it for accrued expenses, and I went ahead and performed that match here too. Now I'm going to move over to accounts receivable for a new feature called Customer Health Insights. And so this enhancement introduces three new fields on the customer record, giving finance teams a consistent way to store and track customer health data, whether it comes from your CRM, any internal processes, or external systems. So if I go ahead and navigate to accounts receivable and customers, and if I go ahead and click on one of my customers here and navigate to the additional information tab, you'll notice a new section up top here called Customer Account Health. And so there's three new fields. One is a health score where you can enter in a numerical value of 0 to 100, a health status. So if I go ahead and click edit to this, you can set a health status and you'll have three different options. That can be healthy, at risk, or escalated. And you'll also have a true or false checkbox for at risk for churn. And these fields can also be included in customer list views. So I went ahead and created a customer health status view here, and you'll notice, again, it shows my health score. It has some color coding here with health statuses, and also quickly identifies, which customers are at risk for churn. And so this will allow your teams to spot renewal risk earlier and take proactive action by centralizing all of these customer health indicators in one place. And it also supports proactive customer engagement and retention planning. This concludes my portion of today's demo covering updates in cash management, general ledger, and accounts receivable. So I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Becca, who will walk through all of the exciting features in fixed assets management and taxes. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Like Ashley said, I will be going through the enhancements related to the fixed asset management and tax modules today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my demo. All right. So first I'll start with the Sage fixed asset management enhancements this quarter. So again, this is specific to the Sage fixed asset management module, which is Sage's new fixed asset tool, which was rolled out about a year and a half ago now. So the first enhancement we'll go over related to the fixed asset management module is that it now supports end-to-end construction in progress, or CIP, asset acquisition tracking and capitalization. To use this functionality, you need to go into your fixed asset management configuration settings and actually enable the CIP functionality. So this will need to be done by an admin. Once you enable the CIP functionality, your asset classifications, within each of your asset classifications, you will now have the option to add a CIP GL account to each of those. Once this is set up, you can now use the CIP functionality and create a CIP asset either from AP bills, purchasing transactions, or creating them manually from within the fixed asset management module, including importing them as well. So to see how this works, how to create a CIP asset from an AP bill, I'll show you today. So go ahead and go into create a new accounts payable bill, select a vendor, just like you would for any other regular AP bill where you're looking to create an asset. Select the CIP GL account. You can enter the CIP amount for the bill. I will select here department, job, and item. And then within the show details drop, if you scroll down to the fixed asset management sections, you'll see the option to either create a new CIP asset, add to an existing CIP asset, or do nothing. In this example, I'm going to go ahead and add this cost to an existing CIP asset I have already set up called the North Wing Art Project. I will go ahead and post this bill. And I forgot a location, so let me add that. Taking a minute to save here, but once this bill is posted, I'm going to go ahead and navigate back into my fixed asset management module where we can take a look at that North Wing Art Project fixed asset and see the CIP costs recorded on there. See the North Wing Art Project in a state of construction in progress. Open this up. Oh, geez, this is moving very slow today. Here we go. All right, so now I have this CIP tab for all of my CIP assets. And within here, you can see the bill I just created for $1,000. It's added as a cost to this CIP asset. And then once I have all my costs associated with the asset and I'm ready to capitalize it, I can go ahead and click this capitalize button, which will move this CIP asset cost from the CIP GL account into the asset GL account, and then the asset will move into a ready to review state. From there, the asset acts just like a normal asset where you can place the asset in service and go ahead and begin your depreciation. The other really helpful feature that Intacct released this quarter related to fixed asset management is the ability to increase or decrease an asset's cost using AP adjustments. Prior to this release, cost changes were only possible when an asset was in a ready to review state. This update now makes it a lot easier to correct costs when an asset value changes due to capital improvements, revaluation, or earlier acquisition errors by just simply creating an AP adjustment. To do this, just navigate to your AP module and create a new adjustment. So you can either do a debit memo to decrease the amount on the asset or a credit memo, which would increase the amount on the asset. Once I select the asset account here and go to show details, I now see under my fixed asset management settings here, section here, all of the available assets related to furniture and fixtures. So for this example, I will just select chairs for conference room asset that we're adjusting and say we want to decrease the asset value by $100. I will go ahead and post this adjustment. Just need to adjust the date here, make this the 26th. And then going back into the fixed assets list, opening up that asset we just decreased the price for. And you know what? Let me just double check to make sure we added that asset in. Right, I think it got removed when I had to change the date. So let me add that one more time and refresh my screen. So again, we're decreasing this chairs for conference room by $100. You can see right now this asset we have is $1,600. So now that this is saved, let me go ahead and refresh my screen, and we should see this asset cost has dropped to $1,500. Yep. And then we can come in and view it. See the asset cost went down, and you can view this cost adjustments tab here where you can see there was the adjustment for $100 applied, reducing the asset cost. Another great feature Sage has released this quarter is the introduction of a standard roll forward report. So this report provides complete visibility into asset life cycle changes across periods to allow teams to reconcile their fixed asset subledger to the general ledger with confidence. To run this report, you can do so from within the fixed asset management module. Choose your time period and any feature, any other filters you might want. You can also choose if you want to run it in summary or detail mode. And then once the report runs, you can see the report shows the asset cost, depreciation, and net book values, including any opening and closing balances. One thing to note here is if you're interested in using the report, just make sure to add the new permissions to the relevant users and roles. The last fixed asset management feature I will highlight for this quarter is just talking through how Sage has removed the restriction on asset GL accounts to allow for more flexible asset GL account assignment. So prior to this release, you may have been aware that each asset classification required its own unique asset GL account. That is no longer a requirement, and Sage Fixed Asset Management will now allow you to have multiple asset classifications using the same asset GL account, giving you the control to align your asset classifications with your company's accounting structure. The next module I'll go over today is the tax module and the updates within there. So the first enhancement to this quarter is that order entry and purchasing transactions that have VAT or GST now display net and tax in a single line when converting those transactions to AR or AP transactions. This helps to provide a clearer view for transaction details. For example, I created a sales invoice earlier within the UK entity. So using the UK VAT tax solution. This was a two-line invoice. So there were two separate lines of tax. On the order entry side, you can see it just has the one subtotal line for the total tax hitting the UK sales services standard rate. So prior to this release, if we were to look at the related AR invoice, it would show each of those lines separately in the tax summary below, but now it summarizes it just into one line here, which helps you to view things in a more simple manner and understand exactly all of the taxes related to your specific invoice. The last tax feature I'll go over is a huge improvement for tax reporting in countries where custom tax solutions are configured. So Sage now offers you the ability to create custom reports that match the VAT or GST returns required by your tax authority by setting up your own tax detail box reports. In order to do this, this is a three-step process where first you define the tax detail boxes that you want included in the report. Then you define the tax box report format. And finally, you can run the tax box report when you are ready. So to use this functionality, you'll navigate to your text module, and under the setup screen, you'll first select the tax report boxes option. From here, you can add specific boxes. So I just created one example here for box one, Netherlands VAT sale. You can identify the different tax details that should be pulled into this box. And then there are a lot of other settings that you can choose based on the tax reporting needs for your specific country, based on whether the box needs to pull in the net amount only, tax amount only, tax, or use a calculation. So it's really flexible to help you build out each of your different tax detail boxes. The next step, when you have each of the boxes filled out, is setting up the tax box report format, which will define how you want to display the boxes in the custom tax report. To adjust the format, you can go into your tax filing definition option here, add a new definition. So here I set up the Netherlands VAT reporting definition. You pull in each of the different boxes that you have. So I just pulled in the one box I had created for the Netherlands VAT sales. And then from this page, you also have the option to pull in any additional columns that you might want in your tax report. So these are the different columns that are available to pull in if you need to report on those as well. Once you have your tax report defined, you can then run your report by going to your tax reports from within your tax management module. Select the time period you're looking to run it for. Choose whether you're looking to run it by transaction date or GL posting date. You can run it either in summary or detail. And then you have the option here to select the tax report definition, which I will select the Netherlands one we set up. And then you can go ahead and view this, export it to Excel, or just run it directly in here to see the total amount of tax you have going into each of your boxes for your custom VAT or GST solutions. Again, this is a really helpful update for companies that have custom tax solutions who need to be able to easily report on the relevant tax boxes for their tax submission purposes. That concludes the updates for fixed asset management and taxes. Next, I'll hand it off to James, who will go over some additional highlights related to company administration, accounts payable, and purchasing.
Thanks, Becca. And hi, everyone. My name is James. I'll be walking you through through several exciting updates available in company administration, accounts payable and accounts receivable, and AP and PO automation available in 2026 R1. Let's jump right in. The first feature I want to highlight is the allowed email addresses list. So in this release, Sage Intacct introduced a new allowed email addresses list. This is designed to enhance email security and reduce the risk of spoofing and phishing. Intacct will now automatically maintain a list of all distinct sender and reply to addresses that your company has used over the past 3 months. Company administrators can review, add, remove, or organize these approved addresses directly by navigating to the company module, the setup tab, selecting company. From here, you can select edit, navigate to the security tab, scroll down until you find this new section for allowed email addresses list, and then this is where you would be able to maintain those approved email addresses. This feature helps to ensure that all outgoing emails from the system originate from a trusted and verified source. Another exciting feature available in 2026 R1 is an upgrade to the import service to support AI-powered mapping and data transformation tools. So enhanced mapping will allow you to automatically split, join, or map fields from one source field to multiple destinations. For example, if you're importing contacts and you use the contact ID field, which to contain first and last names in a single field, you can now split the first and last names into their separate fields seamlessly during the import, while the new transform AI transform agent allows you to use natural language to modify your data set before importing, like cleaning up prefixes, correcting inconsistent casing, or generating new field values. You can preview these changes before confirming, ensuring accuracy and eliminating manual cleanup. Let's take a quick look at how both these new features work. In order to enter the new import service, you'll want to navigate to the company module, setup tab, and then import data. At the top of this page, you'll see a link here for the new import service. It does take a moment to load, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump over to this new tab, this other tab here, where I've already loaded it. For the purpose of this exercise, we're going to go ahead and create some new contact records. So, this page will show all the different record types that you can create, update, and make different changes to. So we're going to select Create for Contacts. We'll grab our file, select Open. The system will go through and extract the data from the file. You'll then need to select again which type of import it is. So we'll go ahead and hit Create for Contacts and hit Continue. From here, Intacct does a great job of just mapping the fields within that file automatically. But the new feature that we can see is the ability to split, join, and do other things with these fields. So initially, my file was set up so that the ID contained both the first name and last name. I already came in here and split this out, and Intacct saved that change that I made. But in order to do that right, you would find the field that you want to make a change to. You can go ahead and select the pencil icon on that line. Intacct will go ahead and give you a prompt, just kind of like a recommended prompt, but you can go ahead and type in what you need to here. I went with this recommended prompt to go ahead and split ID into first name and last name. From here, we can see that ID went ahead and split. So we have first name and then the last name field, and then you can go ahead and hit confirm. From there, there are a couple of different options that you could use. In this instance, right, we use split, but you can combine split, a couple of different options available. We'll go ahead. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and hit complete, and then this will give you a chance to review the changes before importing. Right, so it's going to go ahead and run that validation. We can see that the first name and last name fields were split, and we have a couple of fields here, right, that are giving us an error as they are required. And this will be a great opportunity for us to demo the transform functionality. So let's say we need to add a value in here to the print as field. We can select the three dots on this field and select transform. From here, we can enter a text prompt to tell the system what we want it to do. So in this instance, let's go ahead and tell it to combine first name and last name into this field. And then I've already tested this and it works well. I'm gonna go ahead and try and push the limits on it a little bit and say we want to make this all caps and see how it works. Go ahead and select preview. System will go ahead and analyze your prompt. And there we go. You go ahead and it went ahead and concatenated the names from first name and last name field and made them all caps for us. So we go ahead and hit transform for it to accept the changes. And then from there, you should be okay to import, as long as you have all of those other existing and required fields. While the new features highlighted today are generally available, the new import service also has a beta program for customers to test upcoming features. All customers are welcome to sign up for this beta access. To sign up, you want to just go ahead and navigate to the release notes. So from your Intacct homepage, right, hit the read the release notes link, which will populate the release notes. Find the Sage Intacct Import Services AI-powered tools page in the release notes. Scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see a link here to sign up for beta access. Another exciting feature I want to want to talk about is some changes around AP automation and AP and PO automation. The first one is the migration to the new AP automation email domain, shifting from the old at sagemail.com domain to the new at ai.sage.com domain. This updated domain brings several highly requested improvements, such as auto forwarding rules, which allow you to save time by using auto forwarding rules in your email service to automatically route vendor bill emails to your AP automation address. This eliminates the need to manually forward each incoming bill. It also adds support for some additional file formats. So attachments that appear directly in the body of an email can now be extracted and processed automatically. Previously, files had to be added as traditional attachments. Transactions can also be interpreted directly from the email body when provided as text. So if it's just text within the email, the system can analyze that and create transactions off of it. Additionally, images sent in Apple's HEIC format, which is commonly used for iPhones, are also now supported. Another cool feature around AP automation with this domain change is better bounce back notifications. So users can receive alerts when automated transaction documents bounce back to the original sender. This can help you stay on top of incoming transactions and proactively follow up with vendors when documents fail to process. If you wanted to enable bounce back notifications, you can do this within your AP configuration. So you'd want to go from the application menu, accounts payable, the setup tab, and then configuration. Scroll down to the bill automation settings section. You can select configure next to email services. This is also where you would confirm that your organization has been moved to the new domain. You should have an ai.sage.com domain here. If you don't, please reach out to us and we can make sure that that gets set up through Intacct. But to enable the bounce back notifications, you'll see this new email bounce back notification section. You can go ahead and check the box here to send to the following email address and enter any email addresses that you want to include on those bounce back notifications. As mentioned, all organizations should have been migrated over this last weekend between February 13th and 16th. So if you are not migrated to this new domain, please let us know and we can work with Intacct to get that one set up. Another cool feature out of AP automation is that the system can now predict tax details. So the system will analyze your historical transactions and supplier patterns to predict tax details at the line level. This will work whether you invoice in a single total line document or include multiple itemized lines. And this aims at reducing manual tax entry to improve accuracy and continue to learn. And this function will also continue to learn as you transact, as more transactions are processed. Another exciting update around some of these Sage AI features is that close automation is now fully supported for companies operating with multi-base currencies. This was previously only supported for single currency instances. Some features included in close automation are the ability to do use the subledger reconciliation assistant, which will help you save time by automating tasks required to reconcile your subledger and your general ledger, and also variance analysis, which will alert users when your actual spending exceeds your budget. This update helps make close automation smarter and more reliable for global, multi-entity, and multi-base currency organizations. Another exciting feature for AP automation is actually within the PO automation portion of this, and that's line level matching is now generally available. So this is a major step forward in automated three-way matching between purchase orders, receivers, and vendor invoices that aims at eliminating the need for you to manually convert your purchasing transactions. With this enhancement, AI will match uploaded or email vendor documents directly to purchasing transactions at the line level rather than relying on header information. It can automatically populate line entries from the vendor document rather than the source transaction, flag mismatches in price or quantity between the vendor invoice and the source transaction, apply match tolerance thresholds, and streamline review and exception handling. To enable these features or this new line level matching for PO automation is if you were to go ahead and go to the application menu, go to the purchasing module, setup tab, and then configuration. Scroll down to the automation setting section. You'll see this checkbox for automated transactions with header level document matching. You want to select that. And then you'll see this new checkbox here for override header level matching with line level matching. So these features really just help to strengthen accuracy between for invoice to PO, or sorry, PO to invoice matching workflows. Another great and highly requested feature available in this release is the ability to post AP advances at the top level for multi-currency organizations. This was previously restricted to the entity level for any company set up as multi-base currency. What this means for you is it'll allow centralized top-level AP advanced management. You'll have consistency across advanced functionality for both the accounts payable and accounts receivable modules. It'll simplify navigation without switching entities and just faster processing and improve workflows. So for all of you multi-base currency organizations out there, if you navigate to accounts payable at the top level on the Alt tab, you should now see an advances option here in the AP menu. A couple of things to note for this functionality is that it's not available for cash basis companies, and cross-currency advances must match the bank currency still. Another great feature I want to cover is around improved notifications for recurring transaction schedules and accounts payable and accounts receivable. So this will help your team stay on top of recurring bills or payment schedules. Intacct now sends automatic email notifications when a recurring transaction fails to generate, helping you quickly identify problems. Admins can be set up as a global recipient in which they receive all notifications or notifications for all schedules. This setup is great for when schedule owners are out of the office or leave the company, and this feature can be enabled in the admin's user preferences. So for an admin user from the home page or any page, you can select your name in the top right-hand corner, select My Preferences. You'll scroll down to the email notification section, and you'll now see this checkbox here for receive recurring schedule failure notifications. And anytime a AP or AR recurring transaction schedule fails, you'll get an email notifying you of that. Alternatively, you can also assign schedule-specific notification recipients. So in order to set this up, you would actually do it within the schedule itself. So we'll go ahead and navigate to accounts receivable, the All tab, select recurring invoices. For the schedule that you want to add a recipient on, you go ahead and select Edit, move to the Schedule tab, and you'll now see an email field here, and this is where you would enter the email for any user or employee that you want to receive those failure notifications. This helps to reduce the risk of mistransactions and improves visibility and ownership. That concludes my overview of the 2026 R1 features for company administration, accounts payable and accounts receivable, and AP and PO automation. Thank you all for joining, and I'll be handing things over to Ginger to walk through some additional features.
Right. Thank you, James. Today I'm going to start out with going over the new functionality in order entry. Intacct has introduced billing groups, and it's a new way to streamline billing for customers with similar invoice needs. And billing groups, you would go to order entry, billing groups. And what this does is if you have customers who you are invoicing the same amounts every month, you'd be able to create a group and have the invoices auto-generated. So as an example, we'll look at this PM billing group that I created. You can see here that I created a start date, the schedule that I want it to be on one, number of occurrences, and then you can also add groups. So you can create a customer group. So maybe everybody in Canada or Midwest that you would want to invoice on a monthly basis, or you can invoice the customers individually. Now I'm going to go through, and to do a new billing group, you could create the billing group. You choose the transaction definition that you're going to use, your payment terms, your currency, and then this is where you would start the schedule. And it cannot be in the past. So say we want to start one starting tomorrow, every month. And if you never want it to end, it's just going to do 1 month. Maybe you only want to do it for 6 months. Now you also have the option to have the invoice create a certain amount of time, days before the invoice date for review. And the same thing, you can have it not post to the GL till the invoice date, days after. So it just gives you a chance to review before it's actually posted to the GL. Once you complete the schedule, this is where you would choose your groups, or you would choose the individual customers. So let's just choose a few. And then save. You'll get that it was successfully created. And then you can see here that they're in progress. Now, if we look at this PM billing group, this is one that has been completed, shows you the groups in progress, your billing period. And you can see this one is partially successful. So if we look at that, we can see that 2 invoices were created and it gives you one that's failed. So it gives you an error and the reason why that is failed. So this particular customer was on hold. So if you wanted to invoice them, you would have to take them off hold, manually create that invoice, but in the future it would get picked up. So I wanted to just show you what it would look like if it was successful and if it failed. And you can always check your invoice runs. And then it's also going to show your billing history, the invoices. And from here, you can view your invoices. And you can also make edits if you needed to. Now, this is similar to a recurring invoices, but you're doing them all at the same time. It's generating them all at the same time. And if you have customers that you want to invoice on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, and they're the same amounts, you could put this in here. If they're different amounts, it still gives you that option to go in and edit, but maybe it's the same item. So one thing we'll look here is this is the groups. Maybe if you wanted to add more. So this is where you would add in which item you would want. And then you would be able to tell it the start date and add any of your dimensions that you need. So even if you choose an item, maybe they all are using, project management services every month, but the price is maybe different. So you could still do 5,000 a month and then have it generate those invoices, not post to the GL, because you would be able to go in and edit the amount of those. So it's really ideal for customers that are invoicing the customers that at least have the same invoice amount, same item and invoice amount. But if it is just the item, you could pick a number for the amount, the price, and still be able to go in and edit if you need to, either before it posts to the GL or you just edit before the invoices get created and sent out. Now, with the billing periods, the one thing to remember is that the billing group schedule cannot be in the past. It will not run, it'll fail, it just won't even run. So you always want to start it, a date in the future. It only supports items that are non-inventory and non-inventory sales only. So like if we were to view this one, you can see here, this is a non-inventory sales only. So, or non-inventory, those are the only 2 item types that this works with. And the workflow must equal an invoice. So if we go to order entry and let's look at the transaction definitions, it's talking about this workflow category here. It has to be a workflow of invoice. And you cannot have contracts on. So currently this is not a functionality with contracts. So when you come here, enable for contracts has to be off. The other thing to note is that there are permissions with billing groups. So under the order entry permissions, there is a new category for billing groups, and you would be able to add your permissions there. Okay. The next functionality is on dynamic allocations. So Previously, with dynamic allocations, say you wanted to allocate an expense group. So all of your expenses needed to be allocated across other entities. You would have to do one definition per GL account in that group. And that was because the target entry only could use one account. Let me edit this to help. So previously, the target, you could only use one GL account. So it was a 1-for-1, one definition per GL account. But now you have the option to use source account. And this is going to be very helpful, not only for the build of dynamic allocations, but for the maintenance, because now you can actually choose a group for all of your expenses and then choose use source account. And now you have one transaction definition for all of your GL accounts. So instead of multiple, you only need to use one definition. This helps with maintenance because if you do an expense range, if you create a new expense account, it's automatically going to be part of that group and it's going to automatically be part of this definition. So you don't have to, go and add it to the group, add a definition. This really is going to help with a lot of work on the maintenance side. And then if you have any questions, again, with dynamic allocations, please let us know. The next functionality we're going to go over is projects. And so in my demo, my projects are named jobs, but yours may be grants or projects. But one of the things that they have now created a way to manage projects and update certain fields. Now, with this, you do have to have enhanced lists turned on. And say I want to filter on internal. And I want to update these 3 internal projects. So one of the things is once you have your permissions turned on, and I'll show you where that is right now in jobs. Under jobs, there is a new category for manage jobs permissions. So once you have that turned on, you can see this update field is an option. Now, until you choose a job, it is grayed out. So say I want to do all 3. I click update field. Now these are the fields that I can update. So for all 3, I can change the service line. Maybe I want to change them all to maintenance, or I want to update their end date and I can save. Now, you do get this offline success scheduled. It is an offline job, so it runs in the background as you continue on with your activities. You will get an email when it has been updated. It takes a few minutes, but as long as you have the offline job successfully scheduled, you will get that email in the background. Now, things to note on this one, again, is just that you need to have that permission turned on. And you have to have a business user, either with or without admin privileges, and construction manager or project manager. So an employee user would not be able to update the jobs projects. Then the next one with jobs, again, is that you are now able to connect a job to a CIP asset. So when you go to create a new job, you can come down here and you have an option to add in a CIP. Now, when you connect it to a CIP, it will automatically be available so for purchasing or AP. So anytime you select one of those transactions and you select this job on that transaction, it's going to automatically link it to the CIP asset. Now, of course, to have this work, you do have to have CIP assets enabled in your fixed asset management. So if you're not currently using CIP, but this is where under the fixed asset configuration, this is where you would turn it on if you're using it, and then you would be able to use it for your jobs. That is everything that I'm going to show today. Thank you for joining, and I will turn it over to Becca.
So with that, just jumping into the wrap up here, making sure everybody who joined and needs their CPE credit is able to get it. Wanting to jump into this poll question here of the R1 features we presented today. Are you interested in any of the new release functionality? Again, I'll give about 20 seconds to reply to this one. A few more seconds here. All right, I think we can wrap up this poll now. All right, great. So it looks like more than half generally answered yes, and the other half maybe didn't didn't see too many exciting things for themselves in the release. But definitely encourage everyone to look through the release notes and see if there's anything you have additional questions on or want to discuss. Just highlighting some early adopter programs here that are available: the Finance Intelligent Agent, cash requirements, line level approvals for purchasing, and some pay bills enhancements. So if you are interested in learning more or participating in any of these programs, please submit a ticket through our cross-country request hub, and we would be more than happy to see if we can get you signed up for the early adopter program or provide any additional information you might need. The other thing I wanted to call out is just I know there were a lot of companies out there interested in the close automation AI functionality that was initially not available to companies with multiple base currency subscriptions. That with this release is now generally available to all companies, regardless of whether they're multiple base currency. So again, if you're interested in that, please go ahead and reach out to your cross-country team member through the hub, and we would be more than happy to get you some more information on that. All right. So the last poll question here, when was the last time your organization conducted a health check? Give everyone about 20 seconds again to reply here. A few more seconds and the results. All right. Perfect. So it looks like a lot of you are not sure about what a health check is. For those who've never heard, this is where our Sage Intacct team can help perform system diagnostics and provide recommendations on ways you can better leverage Intacct to meet your organizational goals. So we typically recommend completing one every 2 to 3 years or after any major organizational change. Again, if you're interested in a health check, please reach out to one of your cross-country contacts, and we would be more than happy to set up some time to discuss what a potential health check might look like for your specific company. So coming up right on the hour here, um, just want to make sure for those of you who are looking to earn CPE credits, you'll receive a certificate of completion within 5 business days if you attended for at least 50 minutes and answered at least three of the 4 polling questions. There will also be a link for a course evaluation, which we would greatly appreciate if you took the time to complete that, as it will assist us in improving the release content we provide going forward. I know we're at the top of the hour here, so do not have time for any open Q&A, but if you do have any questions, again, hopefully you know how to reach us. If not, always through the cross country request hub, you can reach out and we're more than happy to answer any questions you have there. And then just one final mention on the CPE credits. Here is Sue's contact information. If you run into any issues getting your CPE credits, please go ahead and reach out to her. So thank you again for joining us today for our Sage Intacct Release 1 webinar. We really appreciate your time and look forward to helping you make the most of the R1 release.